Hey everyone, welcome back for another video. So in this video, I'm going to be building an AI Resumé Reviewer for Frontend Camp. The idea is to learn how can we integrate these LLM models into our own existing applications. I've used some LLMs like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Claude, but I've always used them through their website, through the chat interface, but never through an API. So in this video, I'll attempt to build it. So I decided to start my research with Perplexity. You can think of Perplexity as a replacement for Google. So anytime you wanna search something on web, maybe next time try using Perplexity. So my goal was to find an LLM that provides free APIs, or if not free, the cost is very less, because since I don't make any more money from Frontend Camp right now, I don't wanna spend too much of my own money into a side project. So on Perplexity, I found that there were some providers like Cloudflare and Google Gemini that claim to offer free LLM APIs. So I decided to start with Cloudflare since that's what I'm familiar with. On Cloudflare, I did find some models. All the trending models were there, but upon checking the models, I found that they were actually charging for the usage. So I decided not to go with Cloudflare and instead look into Google AI Studio, which is also Gemini. So this is the Google AI Studio, and on the top right you'll see a link to their documentation. The very first thing that you see in the documentation is actually a snippet of how to use their models. It looks relatively simple. You just have to create an instance of a class and then directly use it inside your code. The only thing that you need to run this model is the API key, and you can get API key by clicking on this button. But since I'm already on the Google AI Studio dashboard, I'm going to use this section here right here. So I've already created a key for myself for my project, but let's say if you want to create your own key, you can click on this button which says create API key, select your existing project and then click on create API key. Don't forget to check the billing section to enable the usage of the key. Okay, so now that we have our LLM provider and the API key, the only thing that is left from backend perspective is to actually build an API. Since Frontend Camp is built using Next.js, I'm going to create a Next.js API, which will eventually connect to the LLM provider and then get the information from there. From frontend perspective, it will be a simple web page which will maybe only ask for 3 fields. Number one is their resume, obviously. Second one is going to be the position that they are applying for, and the third one is going to be the number of years of experience that they have right now. Based on these 3 inputs, we're gonna analyze that their resume is okay, if it passes the ETS, or how is the language, or if the skills section actually match the profile they're applying for. So the API is ready. API looks really simple. It's very straightforward. I check for a post method. Then I expect something from the front end, which is position and years of experience. Then finally, I'm firing the query to the LLM. And then from the response, I get 2 keys, which is success and the actual response. Now, interesting function is this query LLM. So if you decide to visit this, you'll see that it is just a wrapper around LLM call. So I'm calling Google's exact snippet that I found in the documentation. I'm specifying the model and the text which I received from the parameter. Now this object actually comes from the Google Gemini class. The only thing that it needs is an API key. And before all of this, you also need to install this package, which is Google Gemini. And I think it should work with the setup that we have right now. Let's test out our API now. So I'm going to use command line to test out my API. So I'll just paste the curl command here. The curl command is basically calling the API on my Next.js server. It only requires 2 body parameters, which are position and years of experience. We have the response from the LLM model. You can see there are 2 keys. One is success, other one is response, that will pass on to the front end. Okay, so now that we're done with the backend API, the only 2 things that are remaining right now is number 1, how do we actually scan a PDF file, and number 2 is the UI. So about scanning the PDF file, if this was being done in a async manner, I could have stored the PDF file onto my server in some storage, and then once the server is idle, in a PubSub fashion, I could have fetched the PDF file, scan it there, and then eventually process the result. But since I don't have a lot of traffic on my website, I can do it in a synchronous manner. So the moment a user uploads the PDF file, I'm gonna scan it and then basically discard the upload, and only the content will actually get forwarded to the LLM. Okay, so I was able to tackle both of the problems. So for scanning the PDF, I was able to find npm package that made it very simple to scan the contents and then discard the file. And we are also done with the UI. The complete functionality is working right now. But before we actually dive into the demo, let me also tell you about something very important that you'll always need whenever you integrate with some AI tool. So if you guys remember the example from the Google Docs, the snippet only had a single prompt, which was a user prompt. But almost every LLM provider provides a secondary prompt, which is also known as a system prompt. So for Google, it's inside the config object. You can also pass a system prompt. Let's understand the difference between these two prompts. So there are two prompts. One is system prompt, other one is user prompt. So system prompt basically tells the AI model how it should behave, and user prompt tells the model like what problem it should solve. Apologies for the bad handwriting. So, for example, you can also think of system prompt as a job description or or a company policy. It basically sets up the system to solve a specific kind of problem which is relevant to the user. So in our case, I could have basically told the model that it should basically review the contents of the resume, and I could also provide it with a scale, like what quantifies as a good resume and what quantifies as a bad resume. So that will sum under system prompt, and the actual user data, the years of experience, the position they are applying to, and the actual resume content comes under the user prompt. So let's say if I go here, I have the system prompt. So if you see the system prompt for Frontend Camp, so I'm starting with you are an expert resume screener, trained on ATS rules, modern recruitment standards, and concise business writing. So basically, I'm telling the system how it should behave when it reviews the resume. I have also told it the output it should return, and then also the input parameters that it will receive. Then at the very bottom, I've also basically told it about the scoring guidance, and then there are some rules that I want it to follow strictly. For example, this rule should be strictly followed. Now, this is really helpful to keep the system in line. It also helps in a contradictory scenario where your user inputs something which is contradicting to the behavior. So your AI model will always fall back to the system prompt. It will discard whatever the user is saying. So if you visit frontendcap.in, you'll see the link for Resume Reviewer at the very bottom. Once you click on it, you'll be taken to a page where we have 3 inputs. Let me upload a resume first. I have a resume from a friend who is applying for a security lead position. Now let's fill in the position, which is security lead, and the number of years of experience he has. Once you click on review, it's going to take some time to actually analyze the application. Once you receive the response back, you will see 3 sections: ATS, language, and skills. So ATS basically means how well your resume will pass an application tracking system. Number 2 is language. For example, here it will also point out specific examples like changing JavaScript basics to basic proficiency in JavaScript. And then if you come to the skills section, and here we have an example where he's applying for a security lead position, but then there are no words like leadership and management. So yeah, this is how it works. Okay, so this was a quick demo of the tool, and it is currently live on frontendcam.in if you guys want to try it out. and maybe get your resumes checked. I hope you liked the video, and if there is anything that you guys want me to build, please let me know in the comment section so I can build it here live on the channel. Thank you for watching. Bye.